Okay, so I have a very interesting session coming ahead, and I can tell from all the preparations, all the speakers are ready and they were checking their presentations. It seems like it's going to be a great end to a great event. This session entitles Customers' Needs, What is the Most Important Challenges? Obviously, the insurance industry is currently witnessing exciting developments and transformation. Technology advancements coupled with changes in customer lifestyles and expectations are driving an unprecedented level of innovation. We constantly hear about blockchain and Internet of Things that have the ability to change the course of the industry, while customers increasingly expect a personalized service. Blockchain could be the solution, with more reliable and secure data available faster and cheaper while reducing risk and fraud. In the insurance industry, blockchain can help all the players, from agents and brokers to distributors and underwriters, to use the same source of data to underwrite risks and make decisions. Let me present our moderator and the speakers for this session. Mr. George Qbain, Chief Executive Officer, UIB, and Chairman of the Board, DIFC Insurance Association. Mrs. Elena Botarova, Chairman and Managing Director, MedLife Insurance Company, Egypt. Mr. Adil Fatouri, Managing Director, Wathaq Takaful Insurance Company, Egypt. Mr. Hamid Mabrouk, Head of Egypt Hub and Head of CRB for Middle East and North Africa at Willis Towers Watson. Mr. Jack Jenner, CEO, Allianz Global Corporate and Specialty, MENA. Dr. Mazen Abu Shakra, Managing Director, MENA and Cyprus, Genri, Lebanon. I give you the floor.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. So, first off, ladies and gentlemen, let me express my deep gratitude for the Egyptian Insurance Federation for such a marvelous job at putting together this event. Truly remarkable, and I think it has raised the mark at least a few notches for other conferences in the region to emulate. So well done, and this comes from the heart. This is not just PR, yeah? So well done on that. Truly remarkable. So this is the last session for the day, and it is my intention not to let it drag, but to keep it lively, and therefore you will find that it moves at a slightly faster pace than other presentations to allow a flow of exchange of ideas. So the topic is about customer needs and, as you saw in the title, blockchain. When talking to the panelists in preparation for this session, there was one recurring comment and one recurring theme that kept appearing, and that is that, you know, customer needs and blockchain. It's like learning to crawl, and then next step is wanting to fly, bypassing walk, jog, run. So on the scale of things, from where our needs are as an industry to blockchain is a journey. And this will be covered in a sequential way. The first speaker, and we are seated in a sequential way, so what we're going to do is each speaker is going to give a 10-minute presentation, a few slides to set the theme, and then after that we will have a panel discussion amongst the panelists, and then open the floor to interaction with the floor. So I do not intend to take much time, and therefore, without further ado, if I can ask Elena Botarova, the chairman or chairwoman of MetLife, to give her first presentation. Elena, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. Insurance industry is a close and very, very, very efficient community, and very happy to talk to you about the most important topic about the customer and the customer needs. Because finally, the customer pays for all. The customer pays our salaries. The customer pays for this great room. The customer allows us to be successful. But we can do it only in case we meet the customer expectation. Let me start with something very basic. We talk usually in insurance society that insurance is something what everybody needs. Let me contest this statement and say that, let's rephrase it, that insurance is something, it's important for the people who have something to lose. Health, wealth, the health for the families, health and ability to work for the main breadwinners, valuable things like home, car, the business responsibilities or commitments to employees, partners, customers, and financial institutions. And saying that, we need also to consider the accessibility of insurance, distribution, and ability to pay for, the payment mechanism, and ability to communicate, and here we are talking about technologies as well. So, what we did in, so MetLife is for the last 22 years actively working in Egypt. Out of 150 years of the history, 22 years is a significant milestone confirming the commitment of MetLife to Egyptian market as a fast-growing and having very, very big potential market. So for us it's important to understand the market. So we regularly do the kind of surveys. We did the first in the market employee benefit study with employers and employees. And last year we did a very interesting research survey about retail customers. We did a survey for 1,500 customers, not even customers, the people who are not belongs to us. Maybe this is by occasion they are customers of Mr. Insurance, of MetLife, Allianz, or whatever companies, distinguished companies we have. But the goal was to understand what are the expectations of the people. So the results of this survey we can see in this slide. So practically, on the question, what type of insurance do you have? 74% of this respondents of this survey answered, we don't have any. 17% answered that they are medically covered. They have the medical insurance. 7% have life insurance. And 2% have property casualty insurance on individual basis. All the people are retail customers, just for everybody to understand correctly what I'm talking about, because the business has much more share in the PNC. So, and the top attitudes towards insurance are, so what is the most important for them to have it? So to leave behind a meaningful legacy for the loved ones. Practically, it's life insurance. Generally choose the option that makes their life easier. It's about medical and maybe car insurance. Maybe it's property insurance as well. Worry about providing myself and my family in the future. Mainly it's about education, cost, coverage, and pension. And top drivers to buy insurance, really it's very important for them to get the clear information, enables for flexible solution according to the needs of the customer, and also makes easy to find the information I need. Top barriers, haven't thought about this, do not know if it's right for myself and my family, and don't know what benefit are for having it. It means that it is awareness issue. Good thing is, extremely good thing for Egyptian market, And I think the big role was in that, in the very good insurance regulation and also good practices of insurance business, that we don't have mistrust to insurance companies on the level of the population, of the people, which is great. In some of the countries, the insurance companies with having not really clear regulation or doing some funny things on the market, they destroy this trust. We don't have it, thanks God. So this is a good basis to grow the awareness in a healthy way. But here we have also to understand something very important. Insurance role in different countries and cultures is different. And Egypt is one of the unique countries considering insurance. Why? Because practically we have some things have the material impact on the insurance penetration. First is the power of families, and second is the power of the state. Means that the people in Egypt are not afraid to die from hunger in case something happened, because family will support and the state will support. So we have to consider this when we are talking about insurance penetration. And also it's very important, and you can see this on this slide, the financial services and marketing is driven by life stage as mix of assets and debts changes over the time. You can see on the left side, on the start of a life cycle of any person, a very big portion of the people, young population in Egypt, we are blessed to have a lot of kids. So about 30 million Egyptians are people below 20 years. This is great. This is our future. They should be subject of insurance, but they will never buy insurance because they don't have money. So practically, as Mr. Mohammed Amran mentioned in the presentation yesterday, the student insurance will be covering 22 million out of this audience, which is extremely important to have more secure future. For different segments, different type of insurance are important, but do they have the opportunity and the chance to get this insurance? Who will advise them what is the most important for them in this specific period of time? What are their insurance needs? So we did the survey, as I mentioned, and we discovered that very interesting information. Practically, it shows that the employer, along with the family and state, plays an extremely high role on the life of any Egyptian. So the preferred channel for getting insurance is to be covered by employer. 66% of the respondents answered they prefer to be covered by employer. Then we see very interesting information. The role of direct agent and broker, individual broker I mean, is 17%. And the good development of the bank assurance in Egypt shows that 14% of respondents answered that they like to get the insurance coverage from insurance people in the bank branches. What are the employees are worried about? So they are worried about how they can provide support for their parents. What will happen with their families in case it's, so about the parents is 48%, about the family in case something happened, and so like breadwinner loss, 43%. A lot of people are worried about their health, it's about 42%, and practically a lot of people have no idea how to manage their finance. So 19% of the people feel, confident, 19% only feel confident about their financial situation. And 23% again only are so confident how to manage the needs by time. Also, another topic which confirms the uniqueness of Egyptian market you can see on the right, in the bottom. So employees who says benefits provided by the employer are the main reason to stay with their employer is employee benefits. Importance of to stay with this specific employer. In UK, 17% only. In Russia, 31%. In the Gulf, 38%. In Egypt, 52% of Egyptians would prefer to stay in case they are happy with their benefits, which is extremely important for the talent retention. And practically, so on the last slide is about how to introduce more Egyptians into insurance. So key consumer triggers is how can I plan for my needs? Mainly it's awareness. Helps me to make choices, it's right distribution and the value proposition based on, not on the product, go and push, go and sell, on the value proposition for this specific segment, for this specific customer. Easy to buy, which is not the case, unfortunately, because to get access to 90 million or whatever 60 million is not easy at all. And we're talking about digital tools, we are talking about easy, simplified way of enrollment and comfortable payment mechanism. And the comfortable payment mechanism is another problem which we have, and we alone as insurance companies cannot solve it. Here we have to work together with banks, with financial institutions, with microfinance organizations to allow us, because only 15 million of Egyptians are bankable. They have debit or credit card, they have account. So this is a big problem to making insurance happen. And the last is, so not only too easy to buy, but also makes sense to keep insurance. And here we are talking about, and my colleagues will talk more about this, about digital tools, flexibility to adapt to the changing needs by time, great service, and proper claims handling. And the last slide, this is just 5 points to make in time. George is looking at me now, very seriously. I'm finishing. So the last slide is, what are the global trends in insurance industry and where do we stand on that? So we are talking here about digital innovation. Really, I'm happy that our regulator, FRA, is supporting us really a lot in the digital e-issuance, a lot of things what we are discussing now to make it more simple, procedures. So in digital innovation is the key to get access to the customer and also to provide the best possible service and retain the customer. Simplified and engaged approach. Data and analytics, this is absolutely must and extremely important for everybody, because data and information is the main power in the world. In case we have the data, we keep the data and we don't use it, we are wasting the gold mine which we have. Value proposition versus pure price. We have this discussion yesterday about the brokers. We are talking about reinsurance, what is price, sensitive things and whatever. But in case we are talking products, commodities, the price is the most important. In case we are talking about value proposition, the correct and fair price is important, but the value proposition is more important. And the customer focus according to the segment and the life cycle. So practically the ability where we do like to play and how we are going to win. And every company shall have own segment, own idea what is my core, how I can do this in the best possible way. So this all, I try to be short, but this topic is so important and really engaged in the customer value proposition and how we can do more in Egypt. So I spent a little bit more time. Sorry for that, George.
Not at all. Thank you so much, Elena. I can truly well done. I can see that you really thought this through, and you might be a little bit surprised to know that while I was doing my research and trying to learn more about the panelists, I took the liberty of looking through the internet on your background, and I could see that you are passionate about this market. I could see that you have truly immersed yourself in the Egyptian culture, and I can see that the first step to selling any product is to understand your customer. So I can see your passion come through. Thank you very much for that.
My colleagues calling me Egyptian, and they're afraid about it.
An honorary Egyptian, I'm sure. So as I mentioned earlier, the intention was to go from, if you like, the consumer side and looking at the product, and then we would move towards the technology. So we've heard from the, if you like, direct retail side, mostly, you know, perhaps with a bigger emphasis on life insurance and benefits. So next we will move to Mr. Adil Fatouri of Withaq Insurance Company, and Adil will give us a presentation from also an insurer on the direct side, but with a takaful twist, because obviously that is an aspect and a segment of the market that we need to be aware of. So without further ado, Adil, please lead us through your presentation. Hopefully no more than 10 or 12 minutes, please. Okay, Adil, the floor is yours.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Really, I'm in a difficult situation actually, because when I have finished my presentation, I figured out that the last session already covered a lot of my things that I was planning to cover. Elena covered the rest, so I'm trying to go to think very fast, at least to specify or to be an added value for you for this couple of minutes. When we talk about the customer needs, we can take it actually from different aspects, from different angles. Let us return back to the basics. The main basics of customer needs actually is the customer come to us for a product of insurance. We were talking about risk transfer mechanism. So we are selling a promise, and he is paying money at the beginning. So what is important for the client? Is it the competitive price? Is it the type of service? Is it the trust, credibility of the company? It's okay. Maybe the price when we start, it is attractive for the client. But by time, the client will figure out that he needs more. The most important is service and trust and the credibility of the product of the insurance company, and the satisfy the products, type of products that we are giving to our clients. Product changes from time to time. Yes, we have certain products right now, but with the world with emerging risks and a lot of emerging risks coming, new risks, we have to satisfy these needs. But this is basics. But the most important is the style of life. It changed. The customer of yesterday changed from the customer of today. We have to look at the customer of today, and when we concentrate on the customer, we have to differentiate where we are actually. We are in Egypt, we are in London, we are in America. So we should understand quite well the customer that we are dealing with, so we can provide him with the services. Factors. So it's most important is the service, because when we have the service, good service for the customer, you can retain it, you can attract a new customer. There are many factors that governing the trust and the credibility and the service that we are providing. Customers would like us to have quick response, easy access, and the simplicity, human qualification that are dealing with the customers, and the talking is the same language. We cannot talk in different language. The lifestyle, as I mentioned, is changing. So the customer now are using his mobile to buy a lot of type of products from the other sectors and insurance. He would like us to respond more because he is busy all the time, and when we deal with him in a very bureaucratic way, he will become frustrated, and he will not come to the insurance company unless it is necessary. Despite that insurance, if we dealt with him in a very good way and in a faster way, and we used the model that we can reach to him very fast, we can create a new customer to the insurance. Today's customer actually wants, he's fond of the internet. He would like to have service that fits perfectly into their busy day-to-day life. He would like to have access to you in 24 hours per day. He would like to have to purchase insurance online. He would like to have his renewal online. He would like to have his claim settled online. So he wants self-service model. He wants digital insurance, and when we talk about digital insurance, it's already covered in the last sessions, already covered in this session. I'm not a professional to talk about it, but I'm just an insurance underwriter. Are the insurance companies are gonna benefit from the digital when applied? Yes. If we succeeded to establish a digital insurance, we'll get a lot of benefits. I think my colleagues will cover it, and it's already covered by the other sessions. I know Mr. George is very precise in time, so I will pass it. But most important, as I mentioned, that when we talk about, we are trying, it's okay, digital insurance is very important. We are focusing on it, it's a future. So we have to take some steps forward to start the digital insurance. Very important to answer a very important question about that. Where we are actually, it's first one, we have to answer the question where we are. As I mentioned, we are here in Egypt, and there are other insurance companies in London, so we have to know exactly where we are so we can plan for the future in the right way. Where we are, still in the manual stage, still in the digitalization stage. Have you touched the blockchain stage? And after that, we have to compare ourselves in the market with the others. How far we are from the others. Others, competitors, other sectors of economy, banking, etc. Where we are from them, because once we are living in the same country, and the other sectors of the economy are moving faster than us, it will be a great problem actually. And the other competitors in the market and the other competitors in the other markets. And also where we are when we talk about takaful insurance, where we are exactly. Takaful is, we are selling the same products like the conventional, but we have to ask ourselves a very important question when we are so we can move forward. And also, I'm coming very soon. When I touch the blockchains, I'm gonna leave it to my colleagues because he's gonna talk about it in many deep details. But actually, when I read it, I find myself it's very somehow complicated, but I've tried to make it very simple for you to understand it. Blockchain is, first, we have to understand that unless without digitalization market, we cannot jump into the blockchain. We have to prepare ourselves first on the digital side and then moving and get benefit from the updated technology. It's a network of database between members, and this network, online network, based on the idea of having blocks on a decentralized basis. It is very important why it is on decentralized, because if any block of information or database that has agreed and secured, if hacked, the other blocks of the information inside the group will not be affected. Also, it is the security of the information inside the group is very important. So I made an example to try to make it as you have shown in the chart. Any transaction, a group of people inside one company, inside one market, inside the managers, inside the company, or inside the market, including the brokers, regulators, and the clients, and all the bodies concerned with the insurance in the market, they can have this network. Also, between the reinsurance on international market, they can have this network. Also, between the insurance market and the other sectors of the economy, they could have. The idea is to have as much as you can from guaranteed database that you can use for your researches in the future and satisfy the customer needs. It's very simple. It's blocks. We call it blockchain. Why? It's blocks any transaction. Each and every transaction is stated in a block first. And after that, should be agreed by all the members and approved by all the members of the network. Once agreed, once all the members agreed for this information on the network, then became a time-stamped block. The idea here we have, for example, we have some blocks from 1 to 7 already there on the network. It is already there. Would like to add number 8. We have to go through some steps. Transaction in block 8, first verified and approved by all network members. Then block 8 is time-stamped and added to the chain. Then once added, we cannot, no one in the world can amend the information or delete it. It is secured. And this is the idea of the blockchain. We can imagine how benefits that we can gain from the blockchain information. It's one of the main benefits that we can have because of this secured information is at an insurance market, inside the market, we can avoid a lot of fraud claims. We can exchange information, very important, when there is a catastrophe loss. We can gather all these data and we can make our researches, then we can use it for the benefit of the market. I'm not gonna talk so much. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Well done, Adil. You will be pleased to know that actually you came under the time limit by about 30 seconds. So thank you very much for adhering to that. Obviously, you know, we've got passionate panelists here, passionate about the subjects, and I can assure you, certainly when it comes to ethical takaful insurance, I rank Adil way up there on my list. Next, in terms of the presentations, Mr. Hamid Mabrouk, a fellow broker and a champion of the broking cause and the broking community. I'm really looking forward to his presentation. Hamid, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I would like to address everybody here as colleagues because I believe that most of the presence here, we either have worked together or I have worked under their management. So I'm happy to share with you some slides. I'm not that comfortable sharing it in English, but we'll have to do so. So not everybody have to put the cask and take it off. So the customer needs. The customer needs is something that we are living day in, day out. Just a background information, for the past 26 years, I have been working as a broker, whether under an individual form or under an insurance consultancy firm or under one of the mega worldwide brokers today. So I have been dealing with customers for this period, especially in Egypt and in some of the neighboring countries. We need to identify two types of customers for the simplicity, because the needs of each of them is totally differentiated between the retail or the corporate clients. So corporate clients, over the past 26 years, we have seen the evolution. The buyer was the financial manager, procurement manager somehow. Today, we see in the Egyptian market professional risk managers that are looking for sophisticated risk, that are looking for customized services, even going to tailor-made solutions going back to the manuscript wording, asking for special condition, consequential losses in very specific way that goes according to their real organization or their internal needs. So to address this, we need to be very sophisticated. We need to invest a lot in our human resources, training. We need to really concentrate on our real added value. On the other side, the evolution of the retail side. In the Egyptian market, 26 years ago, a few obligatory insurance. This was just the available on the market and just the customer needs at this stage. For them, insurance service was just a paper they would need to give to a bank in case of a car loan. That's why we didn't see that much. Today, things are changing. Customers in the retail side are more looking for other products, but yet they are looking for a simple product, and they are looking for a simple process. What didn't change in both corporate customers and retail customers is that we're always looking for the lowest premium and the widest coverage. This is something that never changed in the whole market. I'll try to put a small video that would help, in my view, how we can simplify the process and the product itself. And my feeling from the market today that this is what the customer is looking at. It's a product being sold today by a Canadian insurance company in Canada.
I'm leaving my house then. As I step outside, all of these things would be fully insured against loss or damage instantly. That trick I just showed you, that's Trove. Trove is smart insurance. Unlike blanket policies that cover everything at once, Trove helps me protect just the things I care about. All I have to do is swipe to protect. Trove provides protection against damage, loss, and theft. So if anything happens, just about anything you can imagine, I know my camera's covered. Trove makes it easy to file a claim and get paid right away. I just answer these questions, and Trove handles the rest. And every time I leave my house, things like my laptop and phone are protected. Trove puts me in control of the things I care about, and that's really smart.
If we can arrive to products like this in the market, definitely we could penetrate the retail market. Customer needs is simplicity of product conditions. It is not just a need in the micro insurance. It's on the whole side of retail. We have uneducated customers that know their peril, but they don't know how to insure it, and putting too much clauses in our policies is not helping. So as far as the process could be simplified, that's another video. Sorry. That's another video that would, sorry. That's another video that is talking a little bit about the process. I believe some of you have seen it before.
No, it's just construction, that's all. No, I'm not driving.
Are you okay?
Yeah, you?
I'm good.
No, not you. Listen, I'm gonna have to call my agent. I'm gonna get right back to you.
Mr. Burton, this is Insure Corp. We've received sensor data that indicates you were in an accident. Are you injured in any way?
I'm not injured, no.
Is anyone else injured?
I don't believe so.
Okay, where's my agent's number?
We have pinpointed your location, and we are showing your car is not drivable. So we are dispatching an Uber car to take you to your destination.
That would be great.
I'm pressing 1. English. E-N-G-L-I, English.
May we give your coordinates to our appraiser drone to perform the appraisal?
Absolutely.
We have received the photos, assessed the damage, authorized the repair, selected a qualified repair facility, and have dispatched a tow truck to take your vehicle to that facility.
Perfect.
Yes, hi, this is... Yes, I'll hold.
We have looked up the other vehicle's insurance, transmitted the appropriate data to create the claim, and filed the California SR1 accident report. Can you confirm the information is correct on your phone, then hit the accept button?
I'll check it right now. Okay, all done.
Thank you. Your Uber car is arriving now.
I see it coming.
Accident, not payment. Accident.
Your tow truck should be there now. Don't forget to leave your keys in the vehicle. Thank you for using Insure Corp, powered by Pivotal Labs.
So just simply, if we can arrive to have such a simple process for our retail product and a simple product as these two, this is what customer needs today. As far as the corporate, they are looking for more sophistication. Agriculture insurance was one of the topics that everybody around Egypt was talking lately, and this is nice. And I believe the Egyptian brokers community, led by our colleague Ihab Khidr here, is educating the market on really customer needs that is sophisticated. I believe that I am below my time frame. I'm okay? Thank you very much, everybody.
Aren't movies a wonderful thing? They create the illusion of reality. If only it were that simple. So thanks, Hamid. So as I went through the process of gathering the presentations from my fellow panelists, I couldn't help but notice how well put together the next speaker's presentation on explaining in layman's terms what is blockchain. So many people just say blockchain, blockchain. They use it as a catch-all phrase to suggest that it is some sort of a key and a solution to all of our problems, and that this is going to disintermediate the broking community, Hamid, they say. And I just tell people and remind them that actually, for those who are predicting the demise of intermediaries, let me remind you that probably one of the world's biggest companies, Amazon, is an intermediary. They don't own the things that they sell. They just match buyers and sellers. So the future for intermediaries is very bright, provided we continue to add value. So without further ado, Jack, I'd be delighted if you can lead us through your presentation, and I'm looking forward to the explanation on blockchain as well.
Thank you, George, and thank you, organizer, for giving us this opportunity to speak today. My name is Jack Jenner. I'm the CEO of Allianz Global Corporate, especially in the Middle East. And today I'm going to just give when I looked at this presentation, I thought about blockchain and the application to the insurance industry, and I really thought I'd take it back to basics. So my presentation is really going to, as I said, sort of bring blockchain to life in insurance, really go back to some of the basics, what it is. I think there's probably a lot of common misunderstanding to what blockchain is. It can seem overly complicated at stages, but actually when you drill down into it, it is quite simple. Then I'm going to look at the adoption rate, why the insurance sector should care, what are some of the benefits and challenges that exist, how we deliver value from blockchain to our customers, and then finally just really talk a little bit about Allianz in this space. We are really at the forefront of blockchain technology in the insurance industry. We have already performed some blockchain transactions. We're also investing in a number of startups, and I'll cover that in my presentation. So blockchain, as we understand it today, if you look at 2009 was really the creation of Bitcoin. At that stage, it was very much early adopters. Only those people that really understood the cryptocurrency technology were involved. And it wasn't really until 2014 where we saw sort of common interest from major financial companies, venture capitalists, and also the sort of evolution beyond just cryptocurrencies to smart contracts. And if you look at things like Ethereum, which is really the technology to allow smart contracts, and we'll come on to what smart contracts are, it wasn't really till 2014 and when this became in place that it became more mainstream. As we look at the landscape today, there's over 1,200 blockchain startups. That number continues to grow. There's increased involvement from consortiums, from major corporates, and I guess one of the most interesting things is around regulation and the acceptance of cryptocurrencies and blockchain transactions, particularly across multiple jurisdictions, and the buttoning down on that, which is obviously one of the challenges that exists for the future. As we look forward to 2027, the prediction is that over 10% of global GDP will be in blockchain. There's going to be over 20 billion blockchain nodes and over 2 billion people who are using the blockchain who are outside of the banking system. And if you look at some of the areas that were mentioned earlier, such as in Kenya, where microinsurance exists and micropayments, a lot of that is because those people and individuals aren't in the banking system. So there is a lot of upside opportunity there. So really going back to basics, what is blockchain? So blockchain is a ledger. It's shared across a network of computers. It's not a centralized computer. And it's something that everyone can trust. The information that is provided is in there and it's accurate forever. It's immutable. So what does the blockchain actually do? It exchanges, it stores, and it automates. But really what it fundamentally does is it creates trust. Whenever we trade, there is always an element of trust. And there's always a little bit of a trust gap depending on the number of parties you're dealing with and the transparency of those individuals involved. So what blockchain can do and can solve is it sort of mitigates and shortens that trust gap. And why is it relevant for us? Well, I think it really potentially changes the way that we capture economic value. And it's really the potential that it may in future replace the centralized business model we know. And if we talk about that, we talk about central banks, the banking system. This is a potential alternative. So when we look at the blockchain transaction, and I just wanted to talk about some of the terminology that's commonly used, and it can seem sometimes overwhelming. But if you look at it in its most simplistic terms, when a blockchain transaction is requested, it's sent to a peer-to-peer network of computers. There is no, let's say, for example, Bitcoin, there is no central large Bitcoin computer that controls every transaction. No, it's across a collection of computers that independently verify. Once that is broadcast to the peer-to-peer network, the network validates the transaction and the user status. Are they party to the transaction? Are they a valid element to that transaction? And then it's verified. Now, you may have heard the phrase data mining or Bitcoin mining. And as you can see, depending on the size of the transaction, the sophistication of that transaction, the amount of parties involved, there's a lot of data power required to verify and validate. Now, the way that's currently handled is it's broadcast to the network and a collection of computers solve that problem. Now, there's a lot of individuals out there that have created their own computers, data power, to solve those problems on behalf of the network, and they get remunerated and rewarded in Bitcoins for that. So that when you hear Bitcoin mining or data mining, that is effectively the service that they're providing. Once that transaction is verified, a block is created, that is then added to the blockchain, and once it's added, it cannot be unaltered. It is permanent, it's immutable, and therefore provides a lot more security and a better transparency in terms of the transactions. And then the transaction is complete. So why as an insurance industry should we care? I think as George mentioned in the opening, there's a lot of things that we're not doing already just in terms of simple digitalization and some of our services, but I think we also really need to look at the future. So what are the the opportunities and the potential? Digital identity, really knowing our customer base, fraud prevention, money laundering, etc., quality of information provided, smart contracts that are exacted immediately, as you saw in the fantastic video that my colleague had. The information was checked between counterparty insurers, the claim was submitted instantaneously, so we're talking about the reduction in frictional costs of doing business. The immutability of records. Once they're in the system, they cannot be edited. There's a trail for audit, etc. And the data quality is ensured, and that allows us to be extremely confident in the information that we're working off. And finally, simplified reporting. And I think this is something we all can relate to in this part of the world. In fact, any part of the world, when we look at credit control, when we see the potential that blockchain can bring to things like your quarterly bordereaux, monthly bordereaux, money collection, etc., that can be accessed instantaneously. This can bring a lot of benefits to us. These aren't the most sexy elements, but it's this operational efficiencies that will bring huge benefits to the industry. But what are some of the challenges? So interoperability, and that's really the ability of our various different systems to talk to each other, not just internally, but also amongst various parties. So Allianz has been successful in transacting a blockchain transaction, but the only way we were able to do that was having a common financial ecosystem, and I'll come on to that in the later slide. The second element is scalability. So for all of us to implement blockchain within our various companies, that requires investment, a business case. If the upside opportunity from that investment isn't justified, then why would we bother, quite frankly? And also, if the number of transactions that are going to be added to the blockchain are minimal, that actually creates volatility in the blockchain. So we have to really look at whether or not there's enough upside value and utilization and take up within an organization. The third element is security and privacy. So if the feeling is already that everything is secure and private enough, then really one of the core values of blockchain in terms of providing additional security could be questioned. So it really has to improve on what we have already. And then finally, system integration. We all deal with legacy IT platforms. We're all always investing in new platforms. Obviously, bringing in yet another system that needs to talk and integrate, not just internally, but with third-party vendors, creates enormous challenges. So in order for blockchain to be successful, it really has to deliver value to our clients. So it has to improve customer satisfaction. One of the ways we can do that is in terms of turnaround time, the instantaneous elements of blockchain around claims, information, etc. Instant transparency about the people involved. Provided everyone has access, people can see exactly where a transaction sits instantaneously at any time. And then finally, effort reduction, the reduction in frictional cost of doing business, credit control, etc. So, we see a potential to improve turnaround times by a minimum 50%, improve operational efficiencies by 25%. So you can see very quickly, depending on the scale of the business, there's a lot of upside opportunity from using this technology. So, my second to last slide, just to really summarize the benefits and limitations. So as I mentioned, transparency about the people you're transacting with, audit trail, money laundering, and also the information you're being provided with. A decentralized model, so no over-reliance on one central monetary system such as a bank. It is a peer-to-peer network, so that creates a lot of benefits in terms of ensuring there's no over-reliance on one area, and finally security, enhanced security and prevention of information going loose. And then the limitations, as I mentioned, scalability, does it justify the investment required, the standardization across not just the parties you're dealing with, but perhaps across an industry. And I think that's probably a wider issue in terms of regulation and the adoption of blockchain within any given market. And then really the flip side to security, the other side of the coin. If it's better than what we have already, then that's certainly a benefit. If there is a security breach in future to blockchain, that will certainly create a security challenge. So my final slide, I just wanted to briefly touch on Allianz's involvement in this area. As I mentioned, we're really at the forefront of blockchain technology and investment. I've got 4 examples here, but I'm just going to touch on one in the interest of time. So Allianz Global Corporate and Specialty received an award in October 2017 for the first blockchain transaction. If it was of interest to anyone, there is a YouTube video that I don't have here, but it is on YouTube if you want to find out more. But effectively what we did is we looked at an international insurance program working with a captive. When collecting money from an international network across multiple territories, that does create challenges. And obviously, the longer that money takes to remit back to the captive is exposed. So working with a common intermediary, with a common financial ecosystem, so in this case this was HSBC, we implemented a smart contract that ensured that when the policy went live, the money was collected from the network and transmitted back to the captive to ensure that the captive wasn't exposed. So this is an area that we continue to invest in. We're extremely active in this area and will continue to do so, but as perhaps mentioned in some of the earlier presentations, this is really the very start to this journey within the insurance industry, but this is something absolutely we cannot ignore.
Thank you very much, Jack. Thank you very much for that, Jack. I'm sure, because we have uploaded all these presentations and the organizers have these on their system, so I'm pretty sure that something will be done in order to enable those of you who would like to perhaps download some of this information, considering that the resolution of the screen behind us is perhaps not sufficiently refined to enable you to see the finer details. So my request to the organizers, please make those presentations available at a later date. Without further ado, if I can ask Mr. Mazen Abu Shara to give the final presentation and to kind of maybe help put all these things into context and to maybe introduce some further elements. So Mazen's presentation will kind of wrap things up a little bit nicely, and then after that, Mazen will join us back on the panel, and I will address each of the speakers with a few questions, and then maybe open it to the floor, and to make this an interactive session from here on. We intend not to take too much time. I understand lunch is going to be served at 1:30, so just so that we can pace ourselves, and I will make sure we finish in time in order not to deprive you of the delicious lunch that's awaiting. Mazen.
Thank you very much, George. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'll try to be within the time limits and don't make you too hungry before lunch. Some of you, maybe, like when you look at my first slide, you would look like I'm putting some older guys, and what these have to do with technology. So basically, I don't know how many of you are wondering, but I believe if before we try to speak of customer needs and to speak about challenges and blockchains and technology, I believe we have to speak about ecosystem. Ecosystem in Arabic is called an-nizam al-bi'i. We all live in ecosystem, and if we breach any of the rules in the ecosystem, I think things will go bad. So I will try to make a knot with our past. The gentleman on the left side of my first presentation is an Arab mathematician and scientist. It's called Al-Battani. This gentleman lived in the 7th century, and he was very interested in ecosystem and in solar system. And he's the one who predicted back then that the year is made out of 365 days, 5 hours, 46 minutes, and 24 seconds. He was only off by 2 minutes and 22 seconds. So imagine how accurate, without blockchain and without artificial intelligence, this guy was, what he was able to do back then. If you look at the gentleman on the right-hand side, I don't know if you also are familiar with him. This guy is the father of algorithm. As you all know, all the digitization and blockchain are made out of algorithm. Algorithm is an unambiguous set of instructions to solve a problem. So any technology is using algorithm. And Al-Khwarizmi, who is the father of algorithm, was also one of the first people who started how algorithm is working, and it was named after him. And also, I want to remind everyone that the Arabs in this part of this world have also created or came up with the zero, and also digitization is made of zeros and ones. So if we tied all this together, there are numerous articles and people around the world that they're saying that the Arabs have invented half of digital. So we are not very far away, so we should be optimistic about continuing further. I'm not claiming this one. I mean, this is something that has a bit of truth. So, but however, we have a lot of challenges, and so I want to go through the challenges first. What are the landscape challenges? We have, in our world, we have barriers to entry. What are they? The regulations. In every seminars and conference we go to, we always blame the regulator. We've seen yesterday that the Egyptian market, the regulators are like very dynamic, and we saw the minister yesterday how adamant about bringing this back to life. So hopefully they will be coming, you know, working with us and with all the other community within the ecosystem I was talking about earlier. The other one we have to always be blaming is the religion, that is, you know, the Sharia compliant or not. I think Adil represented the takaful part of it, but I think also there are many people are talking about religion is not a deterrent to insurance and to technology in general. Also, you have the geopolitical issues, you have the economics and all these things. I'm not going to go through that, but anyway, those are the barriers to entry. The world is becoming borderless, and the government usually in our world, they try to protect the incumbent company within the ecosystem we're talking about. I will have a slide on that. And this way, it's affecting the products, because we are importing sometimes products which are not answering the customer needs of our local community. So if we believe in ecosystem, and if we believe in like adapting ourselves to the environment that we are belonging to, we don't have to bring products. We have to look at the customer needs and the customer at the root, what's the problem, and try to address the issue. And that's something has to do with only not products, but also with distribution and the whole network to adapt to the mentality and the environment of the people. The third issue about challenges is technology and innovation agility. The word agility, it's like a word Ernst & Young is using heavily when he talks about technology, is becoming an important side effect of how we all have to be agile in implementing the right technology, or to embrace the right technology before we go ahead. Now, the following sentence is important, because when you speak of innovation, sometimes we forget an essential element. Innovation is not about designing the best product or enforcing things on people. Innovation is understanding what's happening, understanding the people, understanding the ecosystem, understanding the environment, and building all this together very efficiently to reduce the cost, to becoming, you know, like to improve the quality of things and things like that. So innovation is not about buying the best technology around the world and put it in our server and our system and saying, listen guys, we are now have the best technology. We need to understand all these constraints and try to build on it. Now, when we speak of constraints, let's speak about what are the digital challenges around the world. I mean, especially in the MENA region. We have a problem with business case for digital investment. People, companies are kind of, most of the companies, I'm not saying all, most of the companies across the region, they're struggling to say like how this technology will bring me further. How can I use this technology to go to the second level? So they have problem to defining the technology and how they will use it, because they're thinking about if they buy the best technology, it might work for them. Now also, most insurers, since we're like in the insurance industry, are wired to operate with legacy system. They're trying to protect, and the government is also helping them to protect incumbent company from the outside world. So they're creating borders, whereas blockchain, as my colleague earlier discussed it, is borderless. So that's something also we have to get rid of our legacy system and try to start from scratch and build on it. The third issue about cultural manpower, we are not investing too much effort and and innovation, if you want, about our own human capital. Human capital is very important, and we have a lot of talented people in the Middle East, but we're not using the best talents in order to move forward. So something education and human capital is very important a hindrance for our challenge in the Middle East to overcome in order to go further. Now, when we speak about customers and all this blockchain, all these things, and all this buzzword, which are coming every few years, we forget about, I mean, just like to think about the value chain. So why there's a blockchain? Because there is a value chain. And there's a battle nowadays happening in the insurance industry about the value chain. This slide depicts, I mean, there's a chain in it if you see it, but the most important thing on the left-hand side is the customer. So the customer is basically our objective. You have capital, we spoke about in the earlier session about the capital, about alternative capital, traditional capital coming into the market. But at the end, the focus of all of us is the customer. So basically you have the traditional value chain and you have the threats which are coming from the other industry. So the things in red are the incumbent, traditional way of things working, and everybody wants to get close to the customer. Those golden dots there are a strategic movement, how companies are moving to be closer to the customer. But also the green dots are going from bottom up, are basically, you know, like the insurtech, big firms like, you know, Amazon, Alibaba, all these things, Tencent, and peer-to-peer also are becoming a threat to our industry, or a complementary way of us all together tying up the chain and tying the knots within this ecosystem. Because if you look at this for me, it looks like the ecosystem which Al-Battani spoke about 1,000 years ago. Now, so are we going to be depressed? We do have opportunities. What are the digital opportunities in the Arab world? The MENA is only using 8%, according to McKinsey, 8% of its digital potential. We have only one startup a day, whereas in the US, you have 60. Comparing population, our population with their population, have 1 to 30 ratio, we're behind. So that's something we need to start, all of us, like encouraging in order to add some kind of diversity and bring to the ecosystem the right parameters and the right blocks to build our future. Now, the contribution, of course, of the Middle East in the digital economy is very shy, and there's a lot of room to grow. As you can see from the right-hand side, in the US, they have like 8%, whereas in the Arab world, you know, like the collective is 4.1% in terms of digital contribution. So we are like very, very far behind, and we need to start moving and build on our ancestors and try to tie the knot. So we have high potential in digital health, for example, e-commerce and mobile payments. Those are the three things Ernst & Young came up with, that those are the future in the Arab world where we need to bank, because apparently we are one of the most Facebook users and download of YouTube movies. So we are, our generation, the Arab generation in the Middle East, are heavily using the social media. So we need to try to engage them and try to improve and have digital as an opportunity to embrace the future. Now, when we speak also about the ecosystem to further help Al-Battani here in the new world, this is basically the startup ecosystem around the world. I think my colleague earlier from Hamid, he spoke about, I think he put a movie about Trove. Trove, you should find it somewhere here. See on the left-hand side, you see Trove. This is where the movie came from. So here, the InsurTech ecosystem, it has provided platforms. It's on PNC, it's on the business insurance, it's on-demand insurance. So this is basically how the ecosystem looks like today. Where are we? The traditional reinsurer or the insurer, where are we? Or the traditional broker or insurance broker, where are we in the system? We have to be part of this. We have to embrace this ecosystem and try to be a major mover and shakers in it. Now, when we speak about ecosystem of all these companies now, what is their objective? النظام البيئي, what is the objective? Is basically what in new terminology now is called the ecosystem. Now it's being used. النظام الذاتي. So basically, everybody, all these companies which are now starting up, their objective is to access, like my colleague from Allianz earlier said, access the having client centricity or ecosystem addressing me. What are my needs individually? Are my needs different than every single needs in the audience? No, everyone has his own needs. So basically, all the technology we have to embrace, they have to have ease of access to the client. We have to understand, reduce the barriers as much as possible. We have to reduce the length of underwriting, make the journey pleasant and nice, and creating a system which is trustworthy. It has to be trustworthy because the customer don't understand the product. I think our colleagues have discussed that, so I won't spend so much time on this. And because it has everything that we need to do, it has to be personalized from now on. We cannot anymore use 19th century wording and dump it on the 21st century generation. This is like not acceptable anymore because for the time being in our industry, we're still using exclusions and underwriting and perspective, which are like 19th century old, and we want to try to emulate them to become accessible by adding some technology here and there to make it look nice. But this is not the objective. The objective is to go to the heart of the client, go to the ecosystem environment and try to make a change there. Why do we speak about blockchain? About all the ecosystem I spoke about, and my colleague from Allianz discussed it in length. Maybe it looks like a summary here. So the unblocking blockchain. Why blockchain could be important? Because we have to take technology with some kind of also hesitation. We cannot say blockchain is a solution. All the worries and all the things that customers are worried about, blockchain could answer some of the worries because it's transparent, it has an open ledger, it has smart contract, all these elements, I think you spoke about them. And the most important thing, it creates a cross-border people engagement and efficiency. There is no more border. We should reduce the borders. We should destroy the borders and try to have this flow of information and communication flowing in order to create or to succeed in promoting ourselves and go the further step. So basically, we have to better handle the data in a certain manner, and we should not be shy when we say blockchain. Some people say, I don't understand it. We don't need to understand the technology behind it. The technology should answer the customer needs. Whatever make the customer have ease of access, have transparency, and have simplicity, the technology will follow. We should not buy technology and force it on the client. The client feedback should make our technology perform what he or she needs. So some people are questioning themselves for the future. Is artificial intelligence or blockchain, what are the evolution? You spoke about 2027. I'm not sure if we're going to achieve that by then or not. Basically, we have to, the Internet of Things is morphing traditional risk transfer into risk preventers. Now, before we spoke 10 years ago about risk management. Now, most companies are talking about risk prevention, whether it's in health, whether it's in car, whether it's telematics, all these things. We are talking about risk. So basically, the pie of risk is not diminishing, but it's being prevented. So basically, we have to kind of maneuver around this. But is blockchain the answer or AI? Some people are thinking, will AI lead to micro-duration insurance coverage for risk pool of one? So we'll have one risk pool and we'll have, or will blockchain spur decentralized autonomous models? Those are questions we haven't answered yet. We're still at the early stage. And somebody venturing and saying blockchain or AI will resolve all our problems is too far-fetched. I think we need to be careful. What are the takeaways? Basically, we have to invest in our human capital. We have to become borderless. We have to start embracing digital frontier, but being careful. The second thing, start being digital agile. How? By looking at the customer, how they are evolving. I think from the Digital McKinsey survey done in 2016, they found out that customer preferences in P&C and life are about 80%. It's basically people are, how much people worldwide are embracing technology, 80% of it through customer preferences, and on margins only 50%. So basically, again, customers and customer needs coming in the forefront. Finally, perhaps with the advent of digitalization transformation, the historical parenthood claim of algorithm, the Arab algorithm, can be completed, and we might be closing the loop in the Arab world. And I hope this kind of event would help us in the future achieve more. I will finish with this slide. Will you believe it when you see it, or would you see it when you believe it? Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. nice way of rounding it off, starting with the algorithm and ending with the algorithm. Well done, very nicely put. Thank you. So now that concludes the presentation part that my esteemed panelists have given us. So I wrote down a few questions which I will pose to each of the speakers in the same sort of order. So my first question goes to Elena, and it's to do really with the statement she made that at least in Egypt, the family unit, the family support, and the expectation that the government has the responsibility of looking after us, that nobody goes hungry. And I understood from your presentation the suggestion that these things are beginning to change. So I'd like you to comment a little bit on that. And also the next question, which is that in one of your slides you said that the research shows that employees expect or would prefer if their employers were to acquire these employee benefits for them, the insurance protection. So the question on that one is, would it be any different anywhere else around the world? So if I'm an employee and I have the choice of either having to pay for it out of my disposable income versus pushing the cost onto the employer, my impression is this is universal. So I'd appreciate your comments on that, please.
In reality, what we see here in Egypt, there is still, in Egypt we are blessed to have big families. I mean extended families, not only just a lot of kids in one family, which is great because it helps the country to grow, but it's also a big expense. Because everybody who would like to have a good education, they have to think how I can do it better, and to do it better I need to pay for. So for that, I think there is an opening window of opportunity to force practically insurance awareness, and in case we will be able to create a distribution arm of this, so this can help on insurance distribution. Another topic on the employees and employers. Of course, not everybody is providing insurance coverages like employee benefits, medical to everybody, but big companies, all of them are doing that. It is a part of the package. This is the way how to retain the best talents, and there's also differentiation by the level of the people, of the coverage, etc. What I'm talking about, adding something, or while is the role is so important in Egypt, maybe because in Egypt not everybody provides this, and for somebody to keep this, this package is extremely important to stay. In case, for example, in UK, of course there are some employee benefits, but in case you like to have something, you can go and buy. Here, in case you would like to have a medical coverage, a serious one, a comprehensive one, you have to be employed. Because a lot of limitations on many fronts. So still, I think we have a lot of opportunities here on retail and on the corporate side. I mean, on the life, medical, pension, because a lot of opportunities we started just to take, and a lot of untouched areas till now. And I'm sure, I'm really 100% sure that Egypt insurance market has absolutely amazing, great potential. We have to take.
So if you want to unlock this amazing potential that you believe in here, and if you had a magic wand and you could change one thing, and I would like you to limit it to one thing, what would be that one thing that you would like to see change in order to unlock this potential? Just one thing.
One thing, one big thing. There is no magic. I'm not a magician. But I'm looking at the opportunities, what I saw personally in some Eastern European countries, which also went the same way, or I'm looking on the African countries, were moved perfectly well on increasing the penetration of insurance. It's not pure technologies, no. What I'm talking about is the payment mechanism embedded in the mobile devices. I'm talking about ability to pay insurance and to be enrolled to insurance using mobile phones.
Okay, that's great in terms of the distribution. You know, we're always focusing...
Distribution and payment.
Yes.
Distribution and payment.
Well, how can you collect $10 from your phone? You get
through
credit.
the mobile account.
Right.
Not bank account, through the mobile account.
Yes.
How the entire poor countries of Africa went through this micro-insurance. Practically, they covered millions through very, very simple model.
Sure. So therefore, as a form of digital barter. So that one magic wand is facilitate.
The rest, this needs a regulation, changing of, so ability to use a mobile account and not just a bank account. This needs a lot of efforts on regulatory area, and then it can fly. The rest, insurance companies we have a lot of professionals in Egyptian insurance society. We have capital, we have talents, and I'm sure that the rest we will do.
Sure. I understand that's your point of view, and I respect that. Adil, for years people were saying, we need to cater for all segments of society in many parts of the world, in many parts of the Islamic world. There's the conviction that takaful insurance is an ethical or a more ethical form of insurance. In reality, what we have seen is the proliferation of takaful companies, and I'm sure you will agree with me that only perhaps a few have actually remained true to the ethos of true takaful, and that sadly there have been many that have used the concept of takaful only to justify their existence and be licensed. Now, with that sort of scene, it's two questions that I put to you. First, do you agree with what I have just said? And if so, what do you think should be done? And if we can, just address that. And then the other question is, do you see technology and digitization doing anything to further empower Sharia-compliant or takaful insurance in a way that would be different from commercial traditional insurance? Please.
Thank you, George, for this question. Actually, I'm working in takaful insurance for around 15 years now. I'm coming from conventional. And during all these years, I'm totally agree what you're worried about, the things you have spoken about. Actually, when we talk about the development and using technology and would like to grow, I believe that development comes through different stages. You cannot move from the first, you cannot jump into the second stage unless first to completely and successfully finish the first stage. Actually, when we talk about takaful, I'm a takaful CEO, but I have a lot of question marks in my mind, need to be solved actually, honestly, in order to reach the right takaful model. For example, the relation between the takaful customer and the insurance, the takaful company is not quite clear. We have to ask ourselves many questions. Are they coming, we are talking about the premium as a donation. Are they really believe that they coming to us with the donation? This is one very important question. Also, in takaful, we are talking about when there is a deficit on the takaful fund, there is a free loan of interest. Are the participant or the customer of our industry are fully aware that he is borrowed the money and he is legally responsible to repay this money? This is...
And therefore, the question becomes, could blockchain become the empowerer,
Yes,
where
yes.
the transparency of what is the contribution, what is the reserve fund, what is distributed, and then it becomes available to all the policyholders in a transparent way, instead of always saying, oh, we're just building our reserves, and in fact, they're just, you know, diverting funds to other things.
Totally agree with you, George, in your opinion. And the global chain, the blockchain is very important. Why? Because by this network, huge network, we can talk together, we can understand the problems, and we can find solutions. When we talk about takaful, for example, it is not like the conventional. The conventional are talking the same language, are following the, it's okay, they are struggling in the MENA region to reach the standard, international standard of financial and Solvency 1, Solvency 2, Basel 1, 2, 3, 4, but in takaful, we're still talking a different language in different countries. Even in the same country, we have different models. Sure. And inside the same model, we have different treatments. This is actually a problem. When we talk about blockchain, it's very important for takaful, for all the takaful people all over the world, to have this network and exchange views and to come up with a very good model. And in my opinion, I am not against takaful, but in my mind, there is some model, new models can serve and can succeed. If we have the intention and the clear intention to solve the problem and not to use the takaful as, I'm sorry to say that, not to use the takaful concept as a marketing tool, not to use it on the right direction. Thank you very much.
I couldn't have put it better myself. So in that context, one more question, if I may. So in your opinion, why is it that the insurance industry as a whole, it appears to have been slow in the uptake or the adoption of these technologies in this part of the world?
Actually, George, this is very important. When I started to know about the digitalization and to read about digitalization and the blockchain, okay, personally, I went to the internet and tried to find what is the people saying about that, and I found the question that you are asked about why we are slower than the other industries. They were talking in their answer. They were talking about the legacy system, the old legacy system, and the advanced technology, and there is a problem, and the cost of technology. But in my belief, I think that we are talking differently, because they are talking about another product, and we are talking about insurance broker is different from all other products. The procedure or transaction for the other products might take 2 minutes on your mobile to be finalized from A to Z. In the insurance side, it's totally different. When we talk about, because the insurance side, we are surrounding us and the customers with uncertainty. We do have uncertainty towards the future losses. Are we gonna cover it? Are we solvent enough to cover it? And the client itself are worried and has uncertainty towards when they have losses, are the insurance company are coming and they cover it. So we are talking about different types. And when there is uncertainty behind the commodity, so you will feel that there is a reluctance to go for a change. That's why.
Sure.
Thank you.
And of course, realizing that, the commodity, insurance is not really suited for a commoditized product. Jack, I see you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple of comments there. I think we shouldn't be overly critical of the adoption of blockchain in the Middle East, because I've had the benefit of working in Europe and also in Asia, and the adoption rate is similarly low. So I think it's one of the biggest challenges we face is really quantifying the benefit to justify the investment. I think the technology is not particularly well understood. The benefits aren't particularly well understood. So for us as an industry or individual companies to assess the upside benefits of bringing blockchain technology to our companies and therefore justifying the investment, I think we're at a very early stage in many parts of the world in terms of that understanding. We're really at sort of the ground floor level of that part of that journey.
I agree entirely, but Hamid also, gave us a really good exposure or a good expose about how, in fact, in Egypt, it started out where even broker, the concept of the word broker was not there. And I know Hamid was one of the pioneers who kind of moved in that direction in Egypt, and I applaud you for that. But you've also said, and there have been discussions to suggest that in the Egyptian market, in fact, in many developing countries, the spectrum of the type of buyers is so diverse, from people who are just above the poverty line, who can just barely, are barely literate. And we heard earlier Mr. Kamal Tabaj talk about microinsurance and the desire to attract that end of the spectrum, all the way to the very sophisticated buyers who could maybe even be part of a blockchain or an ecosystem for that. So the diversity is so wide. And if you spread yourself so thin, you won't catch any of that market segment. So in your firm, in your approach, where do you feel you should be focusing? And is that in a way counterintuitive to the mission to educate the rest of the market, because the sophisticated buyer are already sophisticated, right?
I mean, let's separate the corporate from the retail. I'm assuming that we are talking just about retail right now. So if we are talking just about retail, my personal belief that every person within the 100 million Egyptian have a need for an insurance product. It's only addressing who first, and I don't believe that there is a difference between the wealth. So the upper class from a financial perspective and the lower class from a financial perspective, both are in need for insurance product. But the point is how to address them with the right product. So if you come with a simple auto policy, the one that is very known to the market, and you are going to a client that is having a Lamborghini or having a very sophisticated car, and you are telling him that I'm going to cover you with this normal policy, he will not be interested. As much as if you are going to a peasant in the Upper Egypt and talking about the mobile insurance, he would care more about his livestock if you come with a product for his livestock. So what we need to do in order to have a better penetration is designing products that suits each category and providing it. You mentioned my company, the company I work in. The retail experience we do have a good retail experience in Brazil. We do have a good retail experience in East Europe, and it is different products and different model of distribution. So most probably we see that the Egyptian market have the opportunity of the multiple.
Okay, so I asked Elena the question, I said, if you have that magic wand, what's the one thing that you would try to change to make it a better market? I'm interested from a broker's point of view. If there's one thing you can do in this market to make a big difference, because I know there are so many things, but the one thing that you feel should change in order to make this a better market, what would that be?
It's a pity that Dr. Omran and Mr. Rida are not here. I just would love to see the promise they have given on this podium happening. More obligatory insurance in this market will educate the market. I'm not looking for the obligatory insurance for the revenue of its distribution. I'm looking for it to set the base that you have a liability or you have an ownership. If this happens, the awareness would flow very high.
I agree, and it is indeed a pity that they're not here, but I'm sure that what we are seeing is being recorded by media, and perhaps the message will come across. Jack, I move to you. So we talked about technology, artificial intelligence, ecosystems, and how that's going to empower or improve things for us in the insurance industry. To me, the irony is, and it's been a while now, during this rendezvous, I did not really hear that much about cyber risks. Now, it strikes me as very strange that the one risk that appears to be foremost on a lot of people's minds, certainly the corporate buyers, the mega buyers, is the cyber threat. And we all know the cyber threat is no longer, the 15-year-old sitting on his computer in his parents' bedroom. It's now state-sponsored cyber attacks. And they are no longer just, doing it for sort of spying purposes, but for industrial espionage. And, we talked about trade wars. So do you think it's kind of ironic that perhaps the thing that is perceived as the biggest risk in a mega way, cybersecurity, do you think that may in fact be the undoing and the preventer of blockchain? Because in a sense, it's adding another question mark on the viability?
Thank you for that question, George. I think it's actually a very interesting point of view, and I would actually counter it. I'd actually say that cyber is the enabler for blockchain. It's absolutely true that cyber is a risk that exists. It's more prevalent than ever, and I think it will continue to increase as the years go by. I think particularly with the adoption and increase in AI, almost automating cyber attacks in a much more sophisticated way. This is a very true and absolute risk. But if you look at the circumstances around the major hacks that we've seen, be it financial institutions, large retailers, airlines, etc., you're talking about a centralized database that has been hacked. And one of the true benefits of blockchain and peer-to-peer network is you're talking about thousands of computers that constantly verify the information, and that becomes extremely challenging to hack and have a cyber issue. So, as we see increased prevalence in cyber risk, I actually think the adoption will almost drive blockchain as a result of that, because it is one of the solutions to solving that issue.
Well, that's very interesting, because we had a cyber security expert from one of our partners, shall we say, our fellow partners from Munich Re, who said, and he's a former state intelligence agency expert, and I was shocked when he said, there are two kinds of companies, those who've already been hacked and those who will be hacked. And he said, I would have said that a year or two ago. Now, I'll say there are two types of companies, those who've been hacked and those who will be hacked again. So, cyber threat is growing, and I'd like to believe that, yes, blockchain is an antidote in a way to cyber hacking, because that data will be stored on thousands of things in the cloud. But this is, I believe, perhaps the threat, because if the cloud itself is somehow disabled, then we might be up a creek without a paddle. I hope I'm wrong, but this is something that we also should all be mindful of. I see you're sitting on
just a small comment on cyber. We are looking at it from a machine perspective or a software perspective. Yes, blockchain could be a solution, but you have to look also at cyber from a behavioral perspective. This is where training and human resources improvement, and this is it's proven to be as important. Even in some organization, now they are seeing it more important, how you could elevate the level of awareness of your employees, how you could change their behavior towards security, and all of that it's becoming really the greatest part of the job in the cyber mitigation.
Sure, of course, I agree with you, Hamid, but the reality is, unfortunately, when you learn that, whether it might be your smartphone that has been built in country X, and country X likes to know what country Z is doing, embedding even firmware, it's a minefield. I think that's a whole different topic of discussion. But nonetheless, we can't be talking about technology and how that is going to impact our industry without taking into consideration what is probably one of the biggest mega threats that people talk about. Mazen, I want to turn to you now. Artificial intelligence, is that going to drive you out of a job? And if not, why not?
I don't know.
I accept that. Yeah.
No, I mean, this is something which is, nobody knows, but I think we're all going to be affected one way or another. And it will drive, for sure, many jobs out of the way. I asked one time one of the major French startup, and I asked about this question as well. And another American one. And the French one, who was a younger guy, he said to me, do you know in Roman time, what was the #1 occupation? I'm asking this, George. Do you know what was it? Just take a guess. One guess.
Crucifixion?
No. It was in the Roman Empire, back then, the #1 occupation, 50% of the population used to carry water. Water. When they created aqueduct, they completely went out of job. And then they started, learning something else to adapt themselves. And that's the answer. I don't know whether it's 100% bulletproof, but I think a human being would eventually embrace AI and other technologies and find new ways to bring innovation further and creation further. I think, but we have to use it smartly.
Sure. I agree with you. And in a sense, the irony, there's another similar analogy. When I first started my career broking at Lloyd's, there were guys who sat next to the underwriter and took down notes and, in order to try and capture some of the salient points. And then a few years later, photocopiers were there. What a revolution. Now they're taking copies of slips. And then a further revolution was when they could shrink a big slip into a tiny slip, and now they can put all this information up on the desk. And then another revolution. They can now have that information digital. But you know what? The underlying factors remain the same. It's a it's a business built on relationships. Of course, at a certain end, it's built on relationships. At the lower end, where it's commoditized, I think there's a role for technology to play a role. But turning back to you, Elena, on the human factor, therefore.
Maybe so one comment before you ask the question. I think it's extremely important topic. So recently I saw in the news that in China, there is the first new factory where robots started to build robots. So we crossed this line already. So technology, digital, robotization, it's all there. But finally, who takes the decision? A robot? No. So who takes the decision if we will operate in this specific segment, if we will sell to this specific client, how we will approach this specific customer? Does it make sense, or we have to avoid it? This is human beings' decisions.
Yes, I hope you are right. The problem is, they tell you that artificial intelligence records the decisions of millions of people and then analyzes those decisions and selects the one that it feels is the right one. So it is conceivable, and there may come a time when actually, whether it's diagnosis of illnesses or maybe even legal cases where normally lawyers have to search through precedents, now all that is stored, and a computer can search through 1 million precedents and come up with the right solution. So, lawyers If we're not careful, brokers, if we're not careful, underwriters. So in a sense, and when I say careful, it's to always add that value. Hamid.
I mean, it is not about being careful or not. Our operating model will change, but the intermediary, for example, will never vanish. It would be operating a software rather than doing a speech, the same way that have evolved with the phone, the fax, and all of these things. So
moving from papyrus to a mobile messenger, so it's a big, it was a big, trip, a big, change, but people are finally the same.
That's right.
So this is a story which is very important for all of us, and in case we are focusing on the customer, on his evolving needs, then it's we have to follow up with the client all the time. In case we just sold one product and disappeared, then this customer will maybe next time the customer of another company, or even cancel everything. But artificial intelligence you mentioned is absolutely extremely important to deepen the relations with the customer. And also maybe coordinating efforts with non-insurance companies as partners. So this is another area where we really can provide the customer with the entire service which he may be needed. For example, he has a medical coverage, and what we do, we provide a wellness solution for him. We provide an education for him. We provide a special programs how he can do more sport and take care about the health.
Sure,
and so on.
Absolutely. I just would be loath to see the day when I have to have a relationship with my robot or my computer rather than with my wife, who would tolerate me a bit more. I don't want to take any more time from the audience and keep you from your delicious lunch, but I am happy to take some questions from the floor. If I can ask that some microphones are made available. There's a question right there. If you can, Mohammed, if you can, be brief with your question and tell me who it is that you wish to address.
First of all, thank you. It's extremely informative session. The question is for Hamid. First of all, let me agree with the statement stated by George that intermediaries will remain, and this is not only for the corporate, but I guess also will continue for the individuals, subject to, of course, as we all agree, of not doing the same thing again with the same classic way. Now, my question, and what is the interesting video was shown to us by Hamid, is basically providing two magic areas to be done. One is to simplify the product, second is to enhance the service, and this is the role of the insurance company, basically. Now, my question to Hamid, since he is a prominent broker, he's available with us, what do you think that the broker would also help in this area in particular?
I mean, you said insurance company. I'm not sure if this should continue to be the role of the insurance company, because the area of the distribution is really an intersection area. So the future brokers would be maybe software owners, platform managers in the retail side. The reverse in the corporate side, where if you are not very sophisticated, you will not have a room in the market. So I'm seeing that the model will change in how we are approaching the clientele through technology. Did I answer your question? No.
Well, maybe I need more. I think in your videos, you showed two important factors to be done in Egypt, better to say, to enhance the insurance area. One is to simplify the product, and the other one is to enhance the service at the time of claims, if I understand it well. And these two is for the insurance company to do. What do you think the broker would add. I'm sure brokers are important players among the entire chain, and we need, if it is possible, to give us some ideas on how the broker will contribute to enhance the insurance as well.
Okay, I would re-clarify my answer that the driver behind simplifying the product is the broker. It is not the insurance company. Supposedly, the broker is nearer to the customer needs and can, I wouldn't say dictate, but I would say come with the ideas and come with the specs of the product that the customer would need. This is the role of the broker in that area. And yet, the broker could be also the model that is doing the application itself, not the insurer. So this is as far as the retail is concerned. The insurance company could substitute him. In all scenarios, it could. But the evolution of the role of the broker is to invent tools like this one. Mobile application is to come up with product specs for an insurer to price.
I mean, I think, if I may, as of course I'm also a broker and I'm biased, if I may just say that, look, at the end of the day, the principle holds true. If you want to be the advocate of the customer, if you want to be the provider of expertise and advice, I believe it's fair to say that in many cases brokers have been at the forefront of that. And if the reinsurer's role remains simply, and it's not, but if it were to be simply capital, in the model that Mazen showed us earlier, where we've got capital at one extreme and the customer at another extreme, capital these days is a lot easier to acquire than it ever was. So, at the moment, both reinsurers, insurers, and brokers need each other in that ecosystem. If one tries to eliminate the other, they probably would succeed, but guess what? The other entity can also replicate the same tools and the same arsenal, if you like, as the other. Brokers can also bring their own capital. Capital is easy to find these days. So I don't want to take much more time. Maybe we'll take one more question from the floor. Does anyone have a question? Otherwise, any more questions from the floor? Okay, then I will give a 15-second closing statement from each of the speakers if they would like.
Just confirm that I truly believe that Egypt insurance has a great future, and we need to do a lot of efforts to make it happen, all together.
Wonderful. Adil?
After all these sessions, and especially this one, the last one, I became to know and to believe more and more that we have to state quite well our priorities, and moving from a step to another, we have to focus for the first step better than moving to the third step and jumping to the fifth step. It's very important to develop. So we have talked about the blockchain, and we have talked about the digitalization, and I think we need all to focus more and more in the early stages and finalize it first, and then move upwards and build on it to go a step further. Thank you very much.
Just a thought that came to my mind. Egypt, I feel from what have been said all along the 2 days, that the low-hanging fruit in the insurance market is not there. Now it's becoming a market of professionals, and we will have all of us to put more effort and be more professional in order to pass the next year.
Wonderful. Jack?
Just two comments from me. One, I think a fantastic event. Great sessions, great agenda, and I think very meaningful, interesting discussions. But in terms of the blockchain subject and its implementation and adoption within the industry, let's say from an Egyptian perspective, just really the message that this is something that we all need to work together and move together on. It's not something that any single party can implement on their own. It has to be standardized, it has to be recognized and adopted unilaterally, and perhaps that's the role of industry bodies or the regulator.
Fantastic.
Yes, we have seen in the last few years something, like when I was studying finance, and now there's something called behavioral finance. And now there's something called behavioral economics, which are winning the Nobel Peace Prize. I think we should have behavioral insurance. In psychology, the low incident rate, anything with low incident, have much overweight in our mind. That's why cyber risk now is taking a big toll on people. Terrorism as well, because it's low incident, but has bigger overweight in our mind. So I believe we should start all working together, whether broker, insurance company, or reinsurer, towards creating something called behavioral insurance. And that's basically the future in my mind.
Wonderful. Couldn't agree with you more. And ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank all of my panelists. I think you will agree we tried to make this as interesting and as dynamic as possible. And
just one last sentence. I would like to thank Ala as the head of the federation for making this rendezvous happen. I believe it's one of the best meetings we have seen and witnessed or participated in lately. Not this session, but the whole.
Thank you.
thanks for echoing my words. And with that, we conclude our session.
Thank you very much. It was an extremely informative session. I enjoyed it a lot, and I know nothing about blockchain. Thank you for making it easy for all of us who don't know that part. And I definitely want this car insurance, Mr. Hamid. Well, I'd like to call Mr. Ala Zuhairi to honor our panelists. We'll be starting with Mr. George Qbain for the honoring. Mrs. Elena Butarova. Mr. Adil Fatouri. Mr. Hamid Mabrouk. Mr. Jack Jenner. And Mr. Mezen Abu Sha'ra, who will also be awarded tonight for winning the tennis tournament yesterday. Mabruk. Would you like to take a collective photo, Mr. Ala? Just a collective photo? A group photo? Well, our sessions end by now, but we still have a full program. You can head directly to lunch afterwards. It will be held at Soho Square. It's ready now. In the regular tent where we had lunch yesterday and dinner. And I'd like to remind you that you're all invited to the Ghana dinner tonight at Trixis. There will be shuttle buses available at your hotels to take you there. The buses will leave at exactly 6:45 p.m., so 6:45. Please be there on time to enjoy the party from the beginning. During the gala, Misra Life Insurance will award the 4 winners of Spreading Precious Ideas competition. As you might know, an educational competition was held for the best articles on insurance industry. The articles have been evaluated by an esteemed panel of 10 judges from insurance, domestic and international players. We will also give out the awards for the tennis tournament. I truly enjoyed being with you throughout the 2 days, and this was an extremely informative and educational conference. Hoping for more rendezvous to come. Thank you and goodbye.